Well, welcome everyone to the Unitarian Church of Lincoln on this Sunday morning. I'm the Reverend Dr. Oscar Sinclair. It is a pleasure to be with you. I'm joined on the chancel by our worship associate, Charlie Ahern, by our choir director, Julie Anderson, by all of the folks who come together every week to make these services possible. Many of them are wearing very colorful stoles today. Our vision as the Unitarian Church of Lincoln is that we aspire to be a loving community, uniting reason with spiritual exploration to transform ourselves and the world. That continues to be a big dream, but one that has carried us through economic uncertainty, pandemic, climate change, and difficult times in the state of Nebraska. This morning, we welcome new members into our congregation. We say as part of the welcome ceremony that we'll do in a couple minutes that this congregation is a cradle for our dreams and a workshop for our common endeavors. We dream big at the Unitarian Church of Lincoln, and then we work to bring those dreams into the world because we know that we are capable of doing big things together. The world needs transformation. It needs love, and when we gather, we bring our spirits and our reason to that task. May our time together be a homecoming and a chance to dream. Welcome, and let us begin.
Our chalice lighting today was written by Jennifer Grayson. Title is Drawn Together. We come together every week bound not by a creed or a mutual desire to please one God or many gods. Yet we are drawn together by a belief that how we are in the world, who we are together, matters. We light this chalice together in the knowledge that love, not fear, can change the world. singing hymn 128, For All That Is Our Life. Rise as you are willing and able.
So today, as part of our service, in the time where we would often read a story, today we are welcoming new members to this congregation. So if you are one of the new members who has signed the membership book, or books, we ran out of pages. 24 years ago we ran out of pages. But if you have signed the new book in the last 2 months or so, please come forward at this time and we'll begin this part of the service. Okay. That might need to be. Is Kim Zeman in the room? She's subbing in RE. Do I have a board member who can stand in briefly? Or a former board president? You just take the president role?
I will take the president role.
And I will grab another script.
My name is Elle Stratman, and I serve the congregation as one of your board members. Today we have the privilege and honor to welcome new members who have freely chosen to join the Unitarian Church of Lincoln in the last year. Membership is a hallmark of our tradition. The gathered membership of a church is the highest authority in Unitarian Universalism.
So, friends and members of the Unitarian Church of Lincoln, today we welcome new members into this congregation. This is a non-creedal church. There is no doctrinal test for membership. We honor different spiritual paths, knowing that all are called to search for truth and meaning.
My name is Kay Hoff, and I am the chair of the membership committee. Since our charter members joined together in 1898, membership in the Unitarian Church of Lincoln has been marked by signing 2 books. We welcome the following people who have already signed the book to become new members. And they are Cassie Lottman, Jillian and Zach Haddonfield, Jackie Barnhart and Wooly Woolridge, Jennifer Bueller, Abby Loomis, and there you are, Liam, the tallest one. This is Liam Wigg.
We also have had 2 other members join recently, but they could not be with us today, so we'll catch them the next time we do this ceremony. So for our new members, I'm going to ask you a question, and then you have the response written on your card. You have come before us to join yourselves to this church. What is it you wish to receive?
We come from different backgrounds. We have walked other religious pathways. We come to be assured that we are among supportive friends, that our voices will be heard in reading and singing, and in discussion and decisions. We come to share our talents and our gifts. We are here to join in community with all of you.
So for the congregation, I'm going to ask you a question, and then we will have, there we go. Nope. We should have on the next slide your response. All right, so here's what we might do. Elle Stratman, where are you? Would you be a stand-in for the congregation for a moment? Oh, there it is, okay. Okay, so now I ask, have we, as members and friends of this congregation, prepared a place in this house and in our hearts to receive these people into community with us?
We have a place for them and receive them warmly. This is a place of friendship and freedom. We guard their dignity and word as we do our own. In our search for truth, we honor their right of free expression. This church is a cradle of our dreams and a workshop for our common endeavors. We gladly share it with them.
You are welcome here. We will now present you with a rose and a plant. These are symbols of new beginnings in this place. Thank you. We also have small gift bags for you and for your little ones, if that applies to your family.
Are we going to do the bags now? Yeah. Okay. excited in the office this week. All right. So for our new members, I now charge you, as new members of the Unitarian Church of Lincoln, to share with us your creative thoughts, your vital experiences, your questions, your doubts, your discoveries, and the principles that matter most to you. For the congregation, are these people gathered before welcomed into our community? If they are, say, they are with great rejoicing. They are with great rejoicing. Welcome. Let's see, and if our new members want to make your way to your seats, and our kids want to make their way to your classrooms, and for the rest of us, listen to the choir.
So we are dedicating this song to our new members, and as a welcome to our congregation, but also as a reminder that new members are also always welcome in the choir. And you see Jillian has already done that. And just play guitar or play a song or make a cake. You can do a lot of things.
Welcome, everyone. I'm Peg Pelter, a member of the Board of Trustees, and I want to offer a special welcome to those of you who may be visiting for the first time. Please join me, or us, for coffee and conversation in the gallery after service. Our spring auction in April is our biggest fundraiser of the year. Today is the first day to let the auction team know what you would like to contribute for the spring auction. Use the button at the top of the website to go directly to the auction page. Next Sunday, we will have our Easter egg hunt. Hopefully it won't be raining. Children will collect eggs, turn in the change for their organization of choice, and take home a goodie bag. Thank you to everyone who has donated change for the Easter egg hunt already. If you have any questions or would like more information about our church, please stop by the church office. And that ought to do.
A central part of our services is the time we join together as a community to mark the moments of our lives. We share with one another our joys, our sorrows, the events that mark the steps on our journey. The threads of sorrow and those of joy are intertwined in the fabric of our lives, present for all, remembered by all. We share those threads, and then they are woven together with those of others in our community. Our joys are shared and magnified. We are comforted in our sorrows. I invite you to type into the chat online or speak into this shared space your name or the name of another you wish to be remembered in sorrow.
Children in Nigeria. Amy. Those still in Russia.
And online, we have a sorrow for a family friend, Newt, who passed away this week. Now I invite you to type into the online chat or speak into this shared space your name or the name of another you wish to be remembered in joy. And I'd like to start by saying joy for the rain.
Harry. Joy for the new members.
Harry with a negative biopsy.
Mm-hmm.
I can turn 6 on Friday. My daughter Lauren, whose birthday is today. Clarence and I, who didn't celebrate, but had our 39th anniversary yesterday. Keegan's birthday was yesterday. Andrew.
And online, we have a Joy Stacy's birthday. And also a joy from Jamie Radcliffe. Spinal angiogram coming up on Wednesday. Hopefully treatment at the same time.
I'll add one joy from over here. Stacy and Oscar's 10-year anniversary.
Oh. We know, too, that there are some joys, some sorrows that are yet unspoken but deeply felt. Let us hold a moment of silence for everything unspoken.
Our next hymn is number 196, Singer of Life. If you would rise in body or in spirit and join in singing our monthly hymn. Each week, as part of our service, we take up a collection to support the programs of this church and our partners in the world. So as the choir sings this next piece, the ushers will come forward and collect the offering. Thank you so much for your generosity. The offering will now be gratefully received.
Magnified, by the Reverend Laura Dobson, Charlton Unitarians in Manchester, England, December 6, 2023. Luke, chapter 1, verses 46 through 55, the Magnificat. And Mary said, "My soul magnifies the Lord, and my spirit rejoices in God my Savior. For he has regarded the low estate of his handmaiden. For behold, henceforth all generations will call me blessed. For he who is mighty has done great things for me, and holy is his name." The Magnificat is a courageous and subversive song of praise. In the time of Jesus, Mary's homeland was occupied by the Roman Empire, a brutal military regime. Both Roman and Jewish cultures were deeply patriarchal. This world was not a safe place for Mary or her baby, even within her own community. It must have taken great courage for Mary to say yes to what God had asked of her. Dietrich Bonhoeffer, a German theologian who was killed by the Nazis in 1945, preached a sermon on the Magnificat during Advent in 1933, the year Hitler came to power. The sermon begins, "This Song of Mary's is the oldest Advent hymn. It is the most passionate, most vehement, one might almost say, most revolutionary Advent hymn ever sung. It is not the gentle, sweet, dreamy Mary that we often see portrayed in pictures, but the passionate, powerful, proud, enthusiastic Mary who speaks here. A hard, strong, uncompromising story of bringing down rulers from their thrones and humbling the lords of this world, of God's power and of the powerlessness of men." Mary's words were considered so subversive that they were banned by at least 3 oppressive regimes. During the British occupation of India, the authorities banned the recitation of the Magnificat at evensong. In 1970s Argentina, the mothers of the disappeared put the words of Mary's song on posters in the Capitol Plaza, prompting the military junta to ban its public display. In 1980s Guatemala, Mary's song inspired the poor to believe that change was possible through nonviolent resistance, and their government banned its public recitation. Mary's song calls us to resist the forces of repression in our own time. The Magnificat is a call to social justice. It takes courage to make ourselves vulnerable enough to feel the pain of another. It takes courage to rise up against the powerful on behalf of the exploited, the marginalized, those in our communities whose daily lives are adversely affected by unjust systems and institutions. It takes courage to embody the beloved community, sustained by love and compassion for all. It takes courage to say yes to God, to let love in, to be transformed by it. Oh, I remembered this time. Please join me in hymn 140, Hail the Glorious Golden City. Please rise as you are willing or able.
Last week, a delegation of Lincoln clergy from the Justice in Action Network met with Lancaster County Attorney Pat Condon to ask him to expand who is eligible to participate in pretrial diversion programs. We take turns at Justice in Action being the spokesperson for the organization, and this particular meeting was my turn. And so if you came to the church last Tuesday or Wednesday, there was a good chance that you saw me huddled with Olivia Butts, our criminal justice organizer, as we worked through exactly how we were going to phrase our asks, how we would respond to counterpoints, how to stay focused on the issues we were bringing instead of getting dragged into a juvenile debate about tactics and the county attorney's hurt feelings. He had a couple weeks earlier called me up on a Monday morning on my cell phone line to complain about how off-putting our tactics had been. So we knew that that was coming. Now, as a brief side note, the man supervises a staff of 40 attorneys. So he's the lead prosecutor in Lincoln. He's been in public office for decades. So the idea that the tactics of a coalition of 24 churches trying to create a more just Lincoln were off-putting or offensive to him is actually laughable. But laughing is not a serious negotiating strategy. So Olivia and I worked through what we would say when, as predicted, he objected to our tone and tactics. This is how healthy civic engagement works, we said. Groups in the community who think there is a problem come to their elected officials and ask for changes. That's not objectionable, that's democracy. We came with 4 specific asks, all around the eligibility criteria for pretrial diversion. And so as a brief overview, in Lancaster County, if you're arrested for a misdemeanor, so say possession of marijuana 1 ounce or less, or possessing alcohol while underage, or disturbing the peace, after your arrest, after your arraignment, you can apply for admission to a pretrial diversion program. And what those programs are vary. There's at least half a dozen of them going in any given moment, but most involve regular check-ins with an officer of the court or a social worker, regular drug testing, and a goal of breaking the cycle of behavior that led to the misdemeanor arrest. When you complete the program, you don't go to trial, and often the arrest record is expunged. And we know these programs work. There's years of data. Folks who complete them are vastly less likely to get arrested than those that go straight to jail. So we asked Pat Condon for 4 changes to who is eligible to participate in those programs. So right now, if you've ever been convicted of a felony, even 30 years ago, you are permanently ineligible to ever apply, not get in, apply to a pretrial diversion program for a later misdemeanor. So we asked him to change that. He said no. If you have been convicted of more than 2 misdemeanors in the last 10 years, you are ineligible to apply for pretrial diversion. We asked him to change that. He said no. If for whatever reason you take longer than 90 days from your first scheduled court date to decide whether or not diversion is the right next step for you, you are ineligible to apply. We asked him to change that. He said no. Our 4th ask were that these programs cost money to participate in, often several $100s. Now for me, that's not much of a barrier. But if you're unemployed or on a fixed income, that cost can be prohibitive. So we asked Pat Condon to eliminate fees for these programs because money should not be a barrier for someone getting the help that they need. You can guess where this is going, right? He said we'll clarify it on our website, but no. Now, it would be easy walking out of that meeting to feel discouraged, right? To feel like transformation in the county attorney's office, at least, was not going to happen. But I did not leave that meeting feeling discouraged. I left that meeting feeling angry, absolutely, but also energized for what happens next. And before we talk about that, let's back up for a minute and talk about what we mean when we say transformation in society. What is our theory of social change? Over the last 2 weeks, we've talked about transformation on a personal level, compared it to dental hygiene. And transformation in our congregation, that was last week. That was lots of fun to preach. But our vision statement in this congregation doesn't end with transforming ourselves. It doesn't end with transforming the congregation. It ends with transforming the world. That's the end of what we are doing. So we just sang Felix Adler's hymn, Hail the Glorious Golden City. Adler was not Unitarian. He was a Jewish New Yorker who founded the Society for Ethical Culture, right off of Central Park. But his writing captures the goal of a lot of Unitarian activism over the last century. It's a kind of realized eschatology, a view that history has a goal that it works towards, that goal is here in this world, that goal, the promised land or the beloved community, will be built with human hands. And if there is a promised land, then we are not going to depend on God transforming the world supernaturally. Right? We're going to build it. It's going to be ours, that we help create. So, great. We aren't looking for royal cities, golden cities descending from on high, but we are working to build the beloved community right here. That's the big goal. But how do we do it? What's the theory of change that gets us from now to there? Justice in Action is grounded in a particular view of social change. It comes out of the Saul Alinsky school of organizing, one that's deeply countercultural in some ways, but does work within existing power structures to make change. It depends on meeting with the county attorney and figuring out what are the policy levers that we can pull in Lincoln, Nebraska. And it's fair to say that that kind of institutionalist, incremental model is not without its critics in our tradition. Some of them are probably here in this room. So our reading this morning in the scripture that it lays out, the Magnificat, lays out the revolutionary case for social change, right? Sometimes the world is so broken that there is no repairing it. Instead, we are called to create the world anew. And that school of thought is pretty skeptical of organizations like Justice in Action, working to change things at the scale of diversion eligibility criteria. That transformation happens only within the context of existing frameworks and does not change the whole rotten system. This is also the Audre Lorde critique of organizations like Justice in Action, right? The master's tools will never dismantle the master's house. They may allow us to temporarily beat him at his own game, but they will never enable us to bring about genuine change. That is a fair critique. It's one that many people I work with and love share. And maybe those critics are right. I cannot discount the possibility that this may be a moment that calls for changing the whole system, creating some kind of revolutionary change that fundamentally shifts the congregation, but conversation as well. That may be true, but that is not what I often find myself called to. Because if I'm honest, I am more of an institutionalist than a radical, more incrementalist than revolutionary. When I was in my 20s, I served in the United States Peace Corps. And one of the founding ideals of the Peace Corps is this idea from Sergeant Shriver, the first director. He said that the goal of Peace Corps was to develop practical idealists, young people who would have the fire and commitment to make a difference in the world, but who also had the skills and tools to make that happen. Folks who would have the drive for transformation, but the ability to work within systems in order to change them. I get hung up on the revolutionary framework because I struggle to bring it from the abstract to the personal, the abstract to the practical. What will this look like in practice today in our community? Right? So from the standpoint of practical idealism, with our work in Lincoln, I would say that, yes, we work within existing frameworks because we have them. They exist. The county attorney is an elected position, and so we have a peaceful revolutionary option on the calendar in 2026 that I can't talk a whole lot about while I'm wearing a robe in front of a congregation, so we'll just observe that and move on. But second, we work in the world as it is, moving the world as it is towards the world as it ought to be. And that first part is important. The world as it is important because that's our starting point. We don't get to just absent ourselves from working in the world as it is and the systems that are already in place just because they do not meet our high moral or ethical standards. They will still be there. Especially for those of us like me who by unearned circumstance of birth can work in existing systems without danger to ourselves. We have an obligation to show up in those systems and change them. There are people in the jail right now who should be in diversion programs. Today, in this community, these programs that currently exist. There are folks in the state who need access to medical care today. Revolution as an abstract debate does not serve them. Figuring out how to change the system does. Church work will serve them, and us. So we said at the start of the series 3 weeks ago that transformation in churches is possible because churches get to work in decades rather than weeks. Right? We get to use that. That's actually a superpower in community organizing, because making a sustained moral case over time can transform the world. It can transform systems. Organized churches might not start a revolution, but we can absolutely bury a county attorney by the weight of our moral argument over time. In practical terms, church folks vote a lot. And most people involved in organizing know it. Here's what that looks like in practice. Pat Condon said no to every single thing we asked. All 4 things. But that meeting last week was not the beginning of the conversation, nor was it the last word. He's not the only actor in the system. Justice in Action, the coalition that this church is a part of, the coalition that this church helped found, is also working with the Director of Community Corrections, who administers the programs for pretrial diversion, to make sure that there's staffing in place to help more people get access to these programs. We're working with the County Commission to help line up funding for more staff positions as they come available. We're talking with Region 5, mental health services in this area, officials at the jail to get them on board. We're showing up at we, members of this church, not just me, are showing up at every single Lancaster County Justice Council coordinating meeting, making it clear that expanding these programs is the consensus in the community. And as for the county attorney, who decides who gets into the programs and who doesn't, our last ask of Mr. Condon had nothing to do with pretrial diversion eligibility criteria. It was an ask for him to show up on May 2nd so that he could explain his position in front of 1,500 church-going constituents at Justice in Action's Nehemiah Assembly. There's a sign-up sheet right out in the gallery. So we're committed to bringing 150 Unitarians to this thing. So far, there's about, I think, 70 names on there. And at first, the county attorney told us that he would not be able to be there because he had to take continuing education units for professional certification. He told me that I might not know this, but lawyers have to take CEUs, when I pointed out that, in fact, ministers also need to take continuing education units, and that there are lots of opportunities over the course of a year to get your CEUs done, but only one of these assemblies. He said he would think about it. We then asked him, Mr. Condon, there are a dozen clergy members with us this morning. They're all going back to their congregations on Sunday. What should they tell their congregations about what your plans are? I am planning to be there. So, Pat Condon is planning to be there on May 2nd. And we're going to put some of these questions to him. This time not in front of 12 clergy, but in front of 1,500 people of faith who believe in second chances. That's how change happens. That's how the criminal justice system in Lincoln, Nebraska changes. It's not a wave suddenly crashing over a dike, it's a tide rising, building over time until it is impossible to resist. I want to close with a story you've heard before. 15 years ago, I wrapped up my Peace Corps service and moved to Baltimore, Maryland. I'd gone into Peace Corps thinking that maybe I would go to seminary when I got back, and I had gotten back and decided no. If Peace Corps is about building practical idealists, I was a practical cynic. It had been a hard 2 years. I wasn't sure if it was possible for anything to change. And while other volunteers, friends of mine, had been hurt and killed during those 2 years, I wasn't sure that we had actually done much good while we were overseas. But around that same time, I joined the Unitarian Church of Baltimore. I decided not to go to seminary, but that was how I knew how to make friends in a new city. That was how, I didn't even know what I was looking for, but I knew it was something. I can't remember a single sermon from that fall. I can't remember what we talked about. I remember volunteering for committees, but that was all later. That was a year or two later. The one thing that I remember from that fall was being in a worship service and singing together. And then finding myself outside, weeping, processing everything that had happened over the last 2 years. The song was "We'll Build a Land," 121 in the Gray Hymnal. For some reason, more than any sermon, more than any reading, that's the song that clicked. That's the one that said, oh, this is a thing. This is a kind of transformation that I can do. This is what it means to be idealistic. This is a path forward, not a spiritual, supernatural promised land, not a place without mourning, not a place without hurt, but a promised land, the song goes, that can be, where those who mourn are given garlands instead of ashes, where justice rolls down like waters and peace like an ever-flowing stream. That is a thing we can commit ourselves to. That is a vision of transformation that animates our work together. That's what we can build. One day, one meeting, one seemingly very small step at a time. So let's sing together. Our closing hymn is number 121, "We'll Build a Land."
Captives go free, where the oil
Transformation does not happen in a day. It doesn't happen as quickly as we want, and it is hard work. But we know in this place that it does happen. One day, one meeting, one dream at a time. May it ever be so, and amen. And the choir will close us out.